All right. I have absolutely nothing planned for today.
Oh, God.
Usually I get a few minutes to prepare, but I was just on a call with an attorney buddy and just doing some massive biz dev discussions. So really fun stuff. But that's I guess that's where I will start is on the biz dev side. There really is, with few exceptions, there really is unlimited opportunity to do business. And I think that's what's the word I want to use? Sometimes it feels daunting. Like, I found, you and I have talked about this. I've found a nice little niche with people that have already found success in other industries and bringing them into beverage and or other strategic areas that I like to do business in. But when you do that, there really is virtually endless opportunity. You just got to go ask for it, ask for somebody's attention. And I think that's one of the things that I have confidence in, because we talk about it. Siobhan and I talk about it a lot. We've talking about big long-term plans here over this week and talking with financial people and, what are we going to do when the kids move out of the house? So I guess I'm kind of in this, I'm always in the 30,000 foot view, but I think that's one of the things that she asked me. She goes, she'll only ask me about once a week. She'll say, are all your clients happy? She'll ask me that question. Are all your clients happy? And that's kind of the temperature check for her. And inevitably, I always say, well, no, not everybody's happy, right. But people are overall, maybe not this week they're not happy, but overall they're happy in general. That's her kind of subtle way of saying, do we still have income coming in the door, right? Like that's her nice way of saying, are you still cashing checks? Is that still happening? So I think that's the confidence that I carry with me, is that not only do I try to do a good job every week like you do with current clients, but there really is an unlimited opportunity to do business out there. And that's not really a question, it's just more of a statement.
Yeah, it just comes down to like the track record you have of creating value. And you know that you can do it, and you know that you're justified in asking what you're asking for. And you're justified because you've done it and you've lived it, and people have written you those checks. And most importantly, I think, especially in our case, they continue to. Anybody with, half an ounce of talent and an idea could close a deal and get a signature. Do you know what I mean? But to get somebody to commit to the number that they're committing to every month for 6 months, 12 months, or just in perpetuity even, that I think says a lot. And then when you can do that consistently, and you can do that successfully, like I've seen it with us. We were talking about it yesterday morning. This is the best we've ever been. Our close rate in 2020 for meetings that we're sitting down with, it's over 70%.
Wow.
It's absurd. Because we're just straight up like, I just know it's there. I know we have it. I know our system can handle it. I know that we have the team in place to do it. I know that we've, in most cases, have already succeeded with a similar type of client and a similar type of industry. Mm-hmm. So like, it just makes, there is no sale at that point. That's where it is straight up business development, where you're just bringing people in. I think, with sales, there's some amount of uncertainty. You're approaching that literally with the intention and understanding that I am going to convince this person, I'm going to sell them on giving me money to do what I do. And that's where that's why I think that we call it biz dev or business development so much, because that's what it is in this case.
Right.
It's literally just developing that portfolio, developing that brand, developing everything that you're doing to continue to grow financially, size of the company, however, whatever you want to look at it. And I just think that that's such a big thing, where you see scrolling through Facebook all these times, all these dudes with their sales master classes. And I'm like, Jesus Christmas, But if you actually just shut up and slow down and how do I actually create value for people? How do I find better ways to do what they need me to do out there? That's where success comes from. Like, I feel like I was talking with Dave this morning. I feel like we have more straight up consulting clients right now than we've ever had. People that literally just pay us for our knowledge and our expertise and just to be a voice in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you're, 22, 23 years old, like when I started, that's ridiculous to even think of that, whereas now, like, we don't pick up the phone for less than that. And it's in motion, like, I know it's worth it. I know that we're delivering that and probably then some, to be honest with you. So I think that's a really interesting thing that you bring up, because it is so much just the value that you're bringing, you're creating to your people. And that's why it feels to you like possibilities are endless, because in your case they are, because you've committed to just educating yourself and putting in the work on topics and in fields that frankly are very hard and not a lot of other people are. That's why, like, you're the guy. Like, anybody, if someone needs what you do, it's not even a discussion.
Well, and that's what is fun about branding and telling your story, and that's why we pound on this. I mean, now it's been 23 weeks, 25 weeks, 20, whatever we're at, is that all you need to do is talk about the 5 things that you're into and let people know what you're in the game for. Why am I here? And I just got off the phone with my buddy Steve, and he goes, how can I help? And he's big on the Twitch side. He's big on, he reps some of the biggest Twitch artists in the world. And I go, I could kind of see myself doing some of that, just voice in the room stuff for these guys. And then on the music side, obviously, because that's what I'm into, and that's what my kids are into. And it's just having good counsel in the room to say, let's think about this from a 30,000 foot view, and let's play chess for a minute. I know we have to play checkers every single day. I know we do. You have to make those moves. But when you move one piece from here to here, how does that change the whole board? How does that change everything else around it? You can't just operate in a vacuum and have that ancillary thought, to say, okay, I move, this pawn, one thing. Yeah, but that's the one thing you just did, but it changes everything. It changes everything that you're trying to do. And my point is, when you tell people what you're up to, nobody has time to figure out what you're up to. Nobody has time. This goes back to my 2 teenagers. They don't even have the patience to sit through a 5-second pre-roll ad on YouTube. 5 seconds of their life. They have no patience. Nobody's going to spend more than 5 minutes being like, man, I wonder what, Adam Sable, good dude, goes to the camp on the weekends, likes his brew on the weekends. I wonder what his business model is all about. You know how many people are thinking about that? 0. They're not going to spend any time figuring out what you're doing. That's why it's so important to document what we do, and more importantly, why we're in the game, and become the thought leader in any space you want to become a thought leader in, so that when I need the IP attorney for some of these celebrity people, guess who I'm calling? I'm calling my buddy Steve, because we just spent half an hour biz deving. That's what you do.
Well, and I think one thing that I don't think we talk about enough, and I don't think it's talked about enough in general, is the amount of work that goes into creating that street cred on the back end. A lot of times we talk about, the fun stuff and how to build your personal brand and how to get attention and how to biz dev and how to grow a business, which is all important stuff. But like the one thing that we don't ever talk about really is just like the nuts and bolts of just being really, really good at what you do. And I'm going to put you on blast a little bit, because we don't talk about it enough, and you're like overly humble on this stuff a lot of times. But like, you're a fucking genius when it comes to like canned cocktails and canned beverages. I've been on now, at least 2 or 3 like combo clients with you, and there's literally never been a question that you did not have, if not real life experience answering, like fucking well thought out and well researched response to. And that's such a big piece of the puzzle that we don't talk about. Like, it'd be one thing for you to be, you know, a family man, upstate New York, living lake life, driving the Jeep, wearing flip flops, all that. And that's a huge part of who you are. But at the same time, you've invested years, if not decades, like really knowing your shit. And we don't talk about that because it's not sexy, it's not glamorous, it's not fun, it's not a fun thing to document.
Yep.
But like, you have forgotten more about canned beverages than most people will ever know. And we don't, and that's such a huge thing. Because if you were just the, you know, the Ben that's on social media, like that's dope. And like people are gonna be like, I want to hang out with that guy. But they're not gonna hire you at the rate they hire you at if you don't know your stuff, which you do. And I think the same thing goes for here. We just had a meeting yesterday with like a VP from a local bank, just like wanting to know what we do. And like, cause they have tons of clients right now that need what we do. And she's like, the vibe of your office and the actual knowledge you have of your industry, I would have never guessed. Because if you walk in here, I have Slash and Metallica and AC/DC on the walls, and you know, it's 90s hip hop Thursday yesterday. So like Biggie is on Alexa.
Nice.
That's the whole thing. But then when we sit down and we actually talk about, you know, trends that you're seeing and how to have a plan on LinkedIn so it actually does something, and the nuance of a Facebook ad being this way and an Instagram story being this way, you know, that's what gets you hired and gets you retained.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think that's such an important conversation that we need to have more of, especially for like these young kids. Like I was over at the incubator the other day and I just wanted to shake these kids because they all think like, you know, they watch our guy Gary Vee, which like great, like we wouldn't exist without Gary Vee, but fuck man, these kids, they just talk. If I hear the word hustle one more time, my head's gonna explode. Because like to them, like hustling is just talking about hustling.
Right.
It's not actually learning anything.
Right.
Like this one kid thinks he has a social media. I'm like, dope, dude. Awesome. He's like, yeah, we're doing this, and this. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. But like, that's the thing. Like, in like, that's just such the unlock. When you've invested that kind of time and energy to build that system, we're like, yeah, you get them with your branding and your storytelling. But once you let them behind the curtain and they see that, that's why biz dev is so easy. That's why biz dev is limitless, because you have them.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. This is the conversation I have with my kids now because, you know, as we're seeing secondary, you know, you want to talk about blasting on somebody. Let's talk about secondary education right now. Let's talk about trade schools. Let's talk about learning how to become a plumber. Let's talk about learning how to become an electrician, making 75 grand coming out of high school, not college. Let's talk about all those things. This is what I talk about with my kids all the time is, you know, because they've seen a huge change in everything over the last 3 years. You know, how happy I am, how happy my family is. You know, we've folded up some money and put it in our pocket. We've done some really fun things, but they asked me, they go like, why is it that you love doing what you do? And I said, because I love doing what I do. I love helping people. I love strategizing. I love playing chess. I love 30,000 foot view. I love all these things. And I said, that's really the secret is find something. And they're 14 and 12 years old. They have no idea what they want to do in their life. But I try to support them in any kind of initiative that they want to do. Because I said, listen, if I had to go back and do it all over again, it's like knowing what I did. I know it's cliche, but I would have gone back to 14-year-old me and gone so all in on baseball cards. Like I would have been the baseball card kid, which would have become the baseball card expert, which would have become, you know, because it's just like Gary Vee. Gary Vee just literally put his entire investing and selling protocol for being in sports cards. He just put it out for free on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Like you can get to that level with, if you start at 14 years old and you become the kid for whatever, for 5 years, at 19 years old, and I'm just using an arbitrary number, at 19 years old, you can become the person to be the person when somebody thinks of sports cards or whatever it is that you're into. and they will pay you for your time to talk about sports cards. And I'm just using that just because it's top of mind, because I'm cleaning my basement for a teenage hangout room, and I found all my sports cards. So all 30,000 of them. So I have to go through and catalog all of them, which is going to be a blast, by the way. But that's it. You're right. We don't talk enough about this, about the hard work of reading the article at 11:45 at night because you're into something, because you saw something on Twitter, which in your mind, you're going to need, not today, not tomorrow, but 18 to 36 months from now. You know you're going to have to make that investment at some point.
Mm-hmm. And I just think that, and I know that I get accused of being overly optimistic a lot of times, but that's how I'm wired. I weirdly think all of this COVID stuff is going to be one of the biggest blessings in disguise that ever happened to kids that are going through college starting from this semester forward. So I think the one thing it's going to show you is that it is the most antiquated, worst ROI when you break it down thing that you'll ever do. In a lot of cases, don't get me wrong. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, something where you literally need certifications to do it, great, awesome. But the pure fact, I think 70% of degrees at secondary are going to be obsolete within the decade. I really do. Because if you just look, careers just don't look the same. Like, it's easy for us to look at marketing and branding, you know, because it's what we do every day. And like, yeah, I have a marketing degree. I didn't learn a single thing in college that applies to right here, other than how to present and talk to people.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know? So like, dude, I just think, I mean, if you look at me and you, even 10 years ago, right? 2010, which feels like an eternity, but it's not that long ago. Our jobs didn't exist. Mm-hmm. If you told somebody that was what do you want to do for life? Oh, like, people are going to pay me to help them create a canned beverage that they're going to sell. Like, Ben, what were you smoking this morning? You know what I mean? If I told people, hey, in 2010, people are going to pay us what they pay us to post on Facebook and Instagram, they'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. But here we are. Yep. And like, that trend's not changing. So just like, that's the thing. It's never been, if you can find something you love to do and you have talent and you put in effort to like create actual expertise and not just say that you're an expert, but like, heaven forbid, actual expertise, there's a career there waiting for you. Like, so it's just, it's so, you just want to like, it's wild.
I think that's the best thing to come out of this. You know, I just posted in the chat. What's the best thing to come out of COVID in your own life? I was talking to my financial advisor this week, and this is the first time we've talked since he's been home, because they basically closed their office. He gave everybody an option. He goes, listen, we can only have 20% of the people in the office. I think they have like 5 or 6 people in their office. And he goes, I could hear him. I could hear that he was at the lake house, and I heard the kids in the background. And I go, Scotty, where are you? He goes, oh, I'm on the back deck. He said, my daughter's screaming in the background. I got to go push her on the swing. He goes, do you mind? I go, I couldn't give 2 craps. I could not care less what you're doing right now. I go, as long as I have half an ear and you give me some sound advice and this is what we're going to be doing moving forward, couldn't care less. You know, we have these Zoom calls and usually there's teenagers opening up the fridge behind me. And, you know, I would have been deathly afraid to talk to a client like that. You know, even a year ago, I'd lock myself in the basement to have these calls. So I think for me, it's understanding that people have stuff going on. But people have accepted that they have stuff going on. So my financial guy, he gave the option to everybody in his office. Hey, you want to drive back to Armory Square and park in a car, go in a car and drive 35 minutes one way and pick up your coffee and lock yourself in a room so you can sit down and do the exact same thing you can do at home? They have nobody in the office. Nobody. They have 2 15-minute calls. He was telling me this. I love this. They have 2 15-minute calls every day from 10 to 10:15 and 3 to 3:15. It's not, Hey, where'd you go for lunch? Hey, did you see the 49ers game last night? Hey, did you see this? Hey, where do you want to go for cocktails afterwards? It is direct, to the point. They get more done now because there's not all of this going on around them. He goes, I don't think we're going back. I don't think we're going to go rent that space anymore. I go, so what you're saying is you're going to have better customer service, better client service, less overhead, more production, happier employees. I go, that's a pretty darn good thing to come out of this whole thing. And we're seeing I'm so happy that my kids are the age that they are, because, and here's my official answer to the question, and Matt just answered it, the new opportunities and better ways to work. That's exactly what I'm about to say. I'm so thrilled that my kids are this age, that they're going through this. They're old enough to realize, to remember the old way, and they're going to be old enough to figure out how they can adapt to the new way. That's going to be them potentially not going to college, potentially getting into a workforce that I'm sitting at my kitchen table right now. Obviously, I'm sitting at my kitchen table, and this is where I do my work. That is by far the best thing to come out of this.
I think the best thing for me, like on top of that, it's just made everybody realize that like we're all just people. You know, for the longest, like people would literally wake up and dress in a way that's incredibly uncomfortable, that nobody likes, just to go into an office with other people that hate being dressed in a way that's uncomfortable and nobody likes. And then they would just talk about it 100%. Bro, you'd be proud of me. I wore shorts today too.
I'm wearing my lawnmower sneakers.
I got the old school GVs on, baby. But so like, that's what I'm saying. Like, and for the longest time, that's been like, I can control how life works here. And that's always been the thing. I'm like, when we make a new hire, like, what's the dress code? I'm like, I don't know, like t-shirt and pants. They're like, dress pants? I'm like, fuck no, not dress pants.
Not dress pants.
But I think that's the one thing, and it's what I love about it, is that Zoom calls with people's, you know, kids in the background, grabbing stuff out of the fridge, or, you know, dogs barking outside when UPS shows up. Guess what? That's shit that literally everybody has going on every day. And I think it's just made everything so more relatable. And so there's just so much less pressure. Like, oh man, I have to like get dressed up and be in the office and like pretend that I like the person I sit next to. Like, it's just for me, it just feels like it's just cut out so much bullshit that nobody liked doing, that wasn't productive, that didn't yield anything, like just across the board. Like the fact that people think they're revolutionary because they're letting their employees wear t-shirts and jeans to work now in 2020 is one of the most ludicrous things I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah.
But it's true. And guess what? Everybody's happier. Guess what happens when your team is happier? They get more done. Guess what happens when they get more done? You make more money. Like, so I weirdly, like, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of shit that we're going to have to deal with in the fallout of all this. And I'm excited to tackle that. But just in life, and it's easy to, you know, get caught up in stuff that you see online, but when you just stop and look around for a second, people are just happier. And it's like, not crazy.
It's like our friend buddy Joe says. He says the best thing to come out of COVID is clarity. I love that word. That's what my buddy Paul Daly, he built his entire business around that word, clarity. I love it. Focusing on family, business, and what is really important in life, and the people who you actually care about. Sort of a reset to remove the distractions and non-important things in life. That's perfectly said, buddy. It's you know, I love the days. I'm not gonna lie. I love the days when my kids are, you know, one kid is on a boat right now. The other kid is swimming at downtown. I love that the house is quiet right now because that's where I thrive. Because I have to get in this. It's a weird thing. I was talking about this with a friend of mine. I have to get in this zone. The non-important things. What was that me? Sorry.
Nope, I fucked it up. That's my bad.
I have to get in this zone, you know, and bring the energy I just have to bring it on every single phone call. There's just no other way around it if I'm going to have the audacity to tell people, that you have to pay me for my time. But that's what's been weird about this for me is it's gotten so much easier. This has been since March, whatever it was, March 16th. It's been almost 6 months of summer vacation in the house. And summer vacation is hard because you're still trying to run a full-time business while, I want a snack, I want to get driven here, I want to do this, or the dogs, or all those things. And I think that's why I love it now that we're going to look back and say, in 5 years, when they are off to college or trade school or whatever it is that they're doing, hey, remember that year, remember 2020 when we were home for whatever it's going to be, 14 straight months, wherever this thing shakes out, and we actually had the time, but we made it through, and actually things thrived, and we're getting projects done around the house, and we're improving the house and improving our life and improving the way we communicate. I think for me, that's really what's going to come out of all of this is just cutting through all of that garbage, all of the stuff. Just the stuff didn't matter. Just all that stuff, I call this nibbling around the edges, is we got to the core of what matters. And, it's like my financial guy says, he goes, he was busting my chops. He goes, I'm living the life of Riley. He goes, I'm sitting at home in my flip-flops. I turn on my coffee maker. I sit down at my desk, and I'm getting my work done. I don't waste the time driving to Syracuse every day. He commutes in from Skaneateles and comes to Armory. It's 35 minutes one way.
Yeah.
I know you can take calls and things, but it's all that stuff, and it's just been flushed down the toilet, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
It excites me on so many levels, and it's what's weird is even like in a business aspect for us, it's been like a weird blessing on our end too, because literally 99% of businesses are going to have to figure out how to do that and what that looks like, and the amount of people that were treating their communications in a way that was tailored to the old way. They got to change everything now. I had a call right before this with a client and went through the same thing and like, this is a small business in town, we've been talking to on and off for 3 years now. Random questions would come up and just, you try to help out and all that. And we've been going through this whole thing, and they were hardcore. They thought all of their messaging had to be super professional, super formal, super this, super that, because that's what they had seen. And for the longest time, I'm like, it's your business, it's your call. In my opinion, I don't think it's the right move. I think I'm like the whole thing, like at the end of the day, everybody's a human. We all deal with the same stuff, like be relatable. And then we got on our Zoom call this morning, and she's like, I have a confession to make. And I'm like, oh boy, like what happens? She's like, you're right. And then just this whole thing, and just vented everything that I've said to her over the last 3 years, like spit it out. She's like, we should have started this like a year and a half ago. I'm like, no. And she's like, is it too late to start now? I'm like, of course not. So like away we go. And that's just a wild way where like everything works together. You know what I mean? How life changes out there affects how business changes in here, and everything else that we've ever talked about. And like, you're starting to see it. I know we're starting to see it. I've told you off of the show, last 2 weeks here have been bananas in the best way. And it's just, it's one of those things where like everybody's a lot of times super late to adopt new ways of doing that, but like more just selfishly putting it on the record now, like just watch, like August 7th, 2020, like let's talk August 7th, 2021. This is all going to seem like Adam and Ben are like fucking Nostradamus. Like, no, like this has been happening for 2 years. All of this shit, just put it in the express lane.
Yep. And that's, you nailed it. It's never too early to start, but the longer you wait, the less you're going to achieve what the goals you want to achieve. I mean, the further you look back. Hey, I nailed it for the record. Talk about August 7th, 2020. I nailed the technology. You're the one messing up the technology today.
I know. I keep clicking it, and then I click into your live streams, and then I get the volume off of the live stream, and then it goes through the mic. It's a whole thing.
But no, that's it's that adaptation, and I know it's going to take a global pandemic to push some people to do it. But even before global pandemic and even after global pandemic, it's still the same stuff. Markets move, market forces change, the platforms of attention change. Just because you're, like you've said all the time, why were you and I talking YouTube pre-roll ads this week? Because this goes back to, if you put all your eggs in the Facebook and Instagram basket, you go to zero very quickly if you don't talk about YouTube pre-roll ads and LinkedIn targeted ads and all those kind of things. It's the same thing. It just this just accelerated everything. It's Gary Vee's acquisition on Empathy Wine. It got accelerated because they knew that's where the market was going. They weren't the first ones to ever do it. They were an early adopter. You don't have to be the first one to do any of this. Just try it, taste all that stuff. Because it's the people that do look backwards and say, sure, newspaper ads work. They do. But is it the most effective spend for my ad budget? Is it the most effective spend for the awareness of the people I'm trying to capture? Probably not, unless your target market is 75 to 95-year-olds looking for somebody to mow their lawn. Then yes, that's probably a good ad spend. But it's the same thing. We're just in this hyper vacuum because people are frustrated. They're stuck at home. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better in the fall with all of school and emotions and things. But once this is all, even once we do, come out of hyperdrive, it feels like Star Wars. Like once you come out of hyperdrive, it's still going to be the same answer, even if things are moving a little bit slower. Guess what? They're not moving any slower. We're just out and about and being distracted. That's what's going to happen. But it's all the same thing. It's all the same answer. It just feels more intense right now because we're all stuck at home.
I think the big thing is that, like, when you look at it, people and human behavior and what we value hasn't changed. How we communicate that, how we consume it, that will change forever. But like person to person, that has been the same for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? Like they have to know you, they have to trust you, they have to want to be around you. That's why, our grandparents would probably kick our ass at life right now, because how they were brought up is exactly what, spoiler alert, still works today. And I think that that's kind of like what I'm hoping / thinking a lot of this has shown people. Like you were saying, like 80% of what you thought was important in life, in business, in relationships, you name it, was just fucking garbage. It was just a waste. You didn't need it. You didn't want it in most cases. We all did so much stuff because we thought we were supposed to.
Right.
Like your financial advisor is a great example. Why does he have an office where his team came in every day, even though it was 45 minutes away? Because that's what everybody else had done up to that point.
Right.
And clearly, if I don't have an office like this guy, no one's going to take me seriously because they think that I need that too.
Yep.
What has the last 6 months shown? Not fucking important. You don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like phone calls. Like, think how happy you were like the last month when you like saw somebody in person or like talked to them or like heaven forbid like hugged a family member. It felt like you just won the lottery because like we haven't been able to do that. And I think that this is just going to serve as such a huge reset, just psychologically, emotionally, everything. And I think the people that realize that, they're going to have so much success over the next 5 months to close out the year, business-wise, life-wise, you name it, all of it. And I just that's where I get excited with all our people. And I think that's why we've had the success over the last 2 or 3 weeks that we have, is I think that we are set up to make that happen for a lot of people. And we're very lucky. A lot of the shit we've been preaching for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, that's all coming to fruition now. And because we've laid that groundwork, like we're good. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just anytime that you can just look and just respond to stuff out there, and just the fact that like this is the world we live in now. Not COVID shit and shutdown and Zoom calls and all that, but just the dudes in t-shirts and hats and flip-flops are just as credible and just as valuable as the guy in the $4,000 suit. To be honest, probably more so. But and it's just, for me, I think it's really cool to see that, and it's only going to get better for guys like me and you.
Well, think about a sales organization that has 30 people driving to a building every single day. Think about somebody like that. Think about what this is going to do for the, and I'm not going to get into schools and driving the economy and things like that. I'm not going near that. What I'm talking about is if you're the CFO of a small to medium sized business, here's what I'm doing. If I'm worth half of my weight in salt, here's what I'm doing. I'm sitting down and I'm saying, okay, we have 35 people that drive to this building in Cicero every single day. Some people come in from Fulton, some people come in from Cortland, some people come in from Casanova, Skaneateles, etc. Not only do I pay them to drive to this building, I'm paying a landlord $8,200 a month, of which I'm building zero equity. If I sell TVs, how many TVs do I have to sell to make $8,200 worth of margin? Let's say I make $100 per TV. I have to sell 820 TVs just to pay for my rent. Now, take it a step further. How many rolls of toilet paper do I buy every single month? With a group that size, I probably buy 250 rolls of toilet paper every month. How many TVs do I have to sell to buy 250 rolls of toilet paper every month? Coffee, soda, snacks, lights, security, all the way down the list.
Heat, air conditioning.
Yep. So when I get my piece of paper out in my pro forma, I determined that I need to sell 11,723 TVs just to turn the lights on and have people drive in. Now, if I pay for my employees' internet, I pay for my employees' laptops, I pay for my employees, whatever they call it, the secure network thing where they can basically access their pipeline, and I buy them one of these once. Those are one-time costs. How many less TVs do I need to sell to achieve that? Now, instead of spending the first 11 days of my 35 salespeople selling 11,000 TVs, guess what happens on TV number one? I'm folding up my money and I'm putting it in my pocket. When you break it down we would talk about the hard work. That's what my CFO, if I owned a business, small to medium size, that's what I would have him or her do immediately. Is this worth me sending a rent check for $8,200 a month? Now, if I can have that production level stay the same, I'm making a lot more money today than I was 6 months ago. If my production, to your point, if my people are happy, they're motivated, they're selling more TVs, this could be the best thing that has ever happened to my business by looking at it extremely granular, line by line by line.
And I think a lot of people got, whether they wanted to or not, a preview of what that could look like. And then the other thing too, though, and that's where like you have to be open to innovating. A lot of people, right, wrong, or indifferent, you get stuck in what has worked. And there's a lot of places, especially when you get to organizations that are that big, where you're talking dozens of employees, if not hundreds, the thought of saying, oh, we're just going to tear it down and not have them come back, so that's where it's tough to embrace that kind of flexibility and that kind of thinking. But I mean, fuck, man, like that math isn't hard to do, and like, even if I mean, even if you lose some control of it, in like realistically, if you lose 10% of productivity from your team working at home, is 90% of where you were at before minus a $9,000 rent check. Is that worth it? You know, I've thought about it for here, you know, like, do we need this place? You know, and like, that's like, I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I think with the nature of what we do, we're so people oriented that I like the idea of being able to have people like, but like, we'll see, who knows? I think you have to be open to everything, but I think you're right. I think that the last 8 months, when everybody has been put in an economic crisis, nothing shows you how much fat there is to be trimmed, like having to trim it. And I think that that is going to be an enormous takeaway from the last 6 months.
Is my math right on the toilet paper?
Close. I think your TV is off by a factor of 10, but I wasn't going to say anything.
I don't know. I have nothing to compare it to. I haven't worked in a traditional office in, oh my God, 15 years. I don't know how it rolls.
I'll tell you what, I feel like my dad, though. We come in, I'm like, do we really need the AC on today? Like, it's 22 outside. Maybe just crack the door. I don't know.
I love it. All right, last call. We got started a little bit late. Again, that is my fault. What's new? Last call for questions, Facebook, Instagram. Buddy, Tim, Matt, Joe, Chris, Vince, thank you all for watching. As always, it's incredibly humbling that you spend, I don't even care if you spend 3 seconds with us. You clicked on the video and you hear our voices, and that's incredibly humbling. I think that's it. I think you're a perfect example. You may never pull the ripcord and just shut the whole thing down and have everybody work from home, but at least you're having the discussion, right? At least you're thinking about it. You have the number in your mind. I know you have the number in your mind. It's like, I'm writing this check, you know, for X amount to this guy, the lights cost money, the air conditioning costs money. At least you're having the discussion so that you can be as lean and mean as you can be, so that you are charging, you know, market affordable rates, so that you feel comfortable when it gets down to the bottom line to say, my rates are affordable because I've become even more lean. And going back to that example of that CFO, even if 50% of the workforce doesn't come back and they work from home, maybe we transition to a smaller office. And then here's the bottom line for that is, the bottom line is maybe it brings what you're selling, maybe you can pass on some of those cost savings to your customers. Maybe that brings what you're charging for your goods or services a little bit more in line. Maybe you can be more aggressive on that side, or heaven forbid, you put more money in your pocket and you make more margin, and you put it in the margin bonus at the end of the year for your customers.
That would suck, wouldn't it?
There's no downside to having that conversation. None.
Well, I think this looking, and this is where I get psyched to be around like other entrepreneurial people that fucking get it. Like, this is going to, you know, necessity breeds innovation. It just does. And COVID, you know, for everything that's involved with it, has created a lot of necessities that didn't exist at this point last year. So to kind of watch the innovation that's going to come with that, it's been very exciting to watch so far. And I think it's only going to continue. You know, I'm really fired up to see, you know, once we officially get on the other side of this mountain, and, you know, we can go out and like, I can bro hug my friends again, you know, I'm excited to see what happens after that. Just because it's gonna be different. And I think that the one thing that people need to wrap their head around, like different isn't always bad. You know, and I don't want to belittle the situation, because there are a lot of businesses that are really hurting right now, and that's its own separate category. You know, so I'm not talking about them, but just the people that have lagged on that kind of innovation for however long, for whatever reason. Like, these next 12 months are a huge opportunity for you. Like, they just are on every level. So to kind of watch that and see what comes out of it, I don't know. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
This is the thought I'll close on. I had a call last week with a client, and he's starting a beverage brand. And he was kind of down in the dumps for a couple of reasons. Some were out of his control. Some were, quite frankly, in his control. And I let him know about that. He goes, what's the term he used? Isn't it my luck that I started a business during COVID? And I said, it's kind of a self-deprecating term. I go, can we dig into this a little bit? And he goes, yeah. I go, what better time to do it than now? And he goes, why? Things are shut down and this and this and this and this. I go, would you have wanted to have started this a year ago? Had everything in place with your marketing, your branding, your storytelling, your distribution, you're this, and then you get, kicked in the stomach? Or would you rather start it now, adapt quickly to the new market, which can't stand that term, but whatever that is, and adapt accordingly and efficiently use the limited resources that we have to go towards this new economy, whatever this looks like? And by the end of the phone call, he's like, that's a really good point. I go, it's only a good point because it's true. There's no better time to not just start a business, start a side hustle. That's kind of the antithesis. That's not the antithesis. That's kind of the, what's the word I'm looking for? The start of the show was start your side hustle. Little did we know, 6 weeks into this show,
Yeah.
I still have not gone back and listened to those. I have to go back and listen just to the tone of our voices before this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, why? That's why we started this, because we wanted to eat our own dog food, document the journey. And when we go back and look at it, it's gonna be like, oh my God, like this happened at the beginning of this show. But my point is this, which is my point of my client: no better time to do it, because you have no other option. You can't go back to the way it was done. Everything has changed. So I said, this is the exact time we should be doing this. And he goes, all right, I guess you're right. And so that's no better time. Start it now. Start it now.
Well, 100%, because so many people are just playing with a blank slate right now. Do you know what I mean? Like in a lot of ways, your, craft cocktail, whatever beverage you're putting together, there's not much separating you, and it's changed a bit, from White Claw or Truly. Right. People don't want to go to the grocery stores where they have, prime placement. They don't want to do any of that. Same thing with, I was talking to restaurants today, like, listen, if you did your job as like a pizza place, a local mom and pop shop, if you did your job over the last 2 years and you invested in online ordering and delivery and stuff like that, there is literally nothing that Pizza Hut or Domino's or Papa John's has on you right now. There's not. Like, this is just like, our playing fields have been leveled so much, and just the opportunity that gets created when so much of the world is kind of reset is wild. Like, we were just talking, and I'll close on this. We had a conversation with a client yesterday, a local restaurant type establishment. And we literally, they're tired because we've been working so hard to just keep your heads above water, which I understand and I have empathy for.
Yep.
And then they're like, we got to figure something out. We got to do something. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. And we're like, what should we do? And then Dave's like, everything that we've been saying for the last 3 months. We got to change this, And like, they're like, oh, that's a great idea. And they're like, why didn't we do this sooner? And we just looked at them like, I don't know. Why didn't we? But it's going to be one of those things, man. A lot of people are going to win. A couple people are going to lose. But I think that everybody, and it's easy for me and you to say because we're in control of everything. I think everyone's a lot more in control of their shit than they want to admit right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard and it's going to be a lot of work, but it's right there.
Right there. You got to bet on yourself.
100%.
All right. Facebook, Instagram. Thank you. We appreciate you guys. This page isn't available. Am I still live? I am still live. Cool. How do I kill it? See, I called my shot. I said I had the technology perfect, and then I don't know how to kill it.
Jinxed it, bro.
I can just close my tab, right?
That should do it.
All right. If this works, peace out, folks.
Sweet.